Welcome to the Vitamin B12 podcast. We are bringing extra doses of all the Big 12 bowl previews this postseason, and I am here, Chris Armstrong, with me, EJ Hayes, Garrett Sauls. It is finally time for us, the home team, to talk about little Oklahoma State action in the All-State Sugar Bowl. Oklahoma State takes on Ole Miss, running Rebels. EJ, how are you feeling about this one?
Well, this is a funny game because I think both teams kind of squeaked into this game, which still has the appearance of a big-time bowl game. I think it still has the feel of a big-time bowl game because the Sugar Bowl used to be a BCS bowl. New Orleans is always a fun place to play. And I'm glad we're kind of riding that as right now instead of in 5 years when it's still a meaningless bowl. But Texas beats Baylor, which gives us number 2 in the Big 12, and then all of a sudden we're in the Sugar Bowl, which is such a huge deal. I think it's closer to Oklahoma, so our fans are going to travel better. I think we're going to go to Florida or somewhere. So I think these two teams are interesting. Ole Miss obviously was very hot early on, and then kind of floundered a bit. And I think, we've talked about our juggernaut theory and our SEC bias. I think the bias kept them higher in the college football playoff polls. I think their AP number, just like us, our AP number was high and our college football was low. Ole Miss is the exact opposite. Their AP actually was higher, and they were much lower ranked in the reverse of that. But you understand what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know what I think about this matchup. From an Oklahoma State fan, I should say, because I think Ole Miss has its major challenges. I think their offense is pretty dadgum good. They can put up some serious numbers on SEC schools. I'm actually pretty concerned about this game as an Oklahoma State fan. This is not one that, like last year we played a Washington team that had some good defense, but I felt pretty confident going in there. We played Purdue a few years ago, and I've obviously felt good about that. We crushed them. But this is an interesting matchup, but I think it's a tough matchup for Oklahoma State. Garrett, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. So of the SEC teams, first, this is great. I'm happy that we're in the Sugar Bowl, but I gotta say, I'm kind of disappointed that we're playing Ole Miss. Not because we're not playing a quality opponent, not because it's not Big 12 versus SEC, but I really wanted Oklahoma State to play a true SEC team. The thing with Ole Miss is they're not a true SEC team. They're trying to emulate the spread offense that Pac-12 and Big 12 are doing. They're doing pretty well with it. They're having.
So they're kind of an Auburn light, if you will.
Yeah, Auburn or Texas A&M, or something like that. But they're really doing that, and so I'm kind of disappointed there. But by the same token, I think that spread offense, effective as it is, isn't quite up to standards with the Big 12 and the Pac-12. And if you need any exhibit, look at last year when TCU absolutely demolished them. I know this is a different TCU team. I know this is a TCU team that had a very stout defense, but 41-3, something like that. I don't know. I just don't think Ole Miss's brand of spread offense isn't anything that OSU hasn't seen. I think OSU has seen far more quality of it too, with teams like Baylor, teams like TCU, teams like OU. This is what we play every week. So I can't imagine them having any surprises that we're not going to be able to see. I think our defense will be rested enough to contain it. But I think the big question here is, does Mason Rudolph play? Because if Mason Rudolph doesn't play, and if we can't, do what we do best and pass the ball, I don't like our chances in this game. I still feel very nervous about this, but I think if Mason Rudolph comes in and he plays well, I think we win it. But again, it's all a question of if. And does Vanilla Gundy come to play? I don't know. There's a lot of factors here. We have the potential to be great and play with anyone, but we also have the potential to just completely underachieve. So I don't know how I feel about it, but I like the matchup. I think it'll be it'll be a good game for sure.
Well, you talk about Vanilla Gundy, and what you really mean is Vanilla. He disallows his offensive coordinator to do things that he would actually want to do. A lot of people say Yursich is actually a pretty smart, ingenuitive guy, and Gundy really hones that stuff in. The question I have is does he allow Mr. Lego Man to really get the Star Wars Legos out with the lightsabers and do some Yoda action with some defensive tackles at fullback out in the flats like he did last game? And OK State fans will know everything I just said. Anybody else will not have a clue what I just said. But, hopefully, Gundy kind of quoted that he really likes to let loose in these bowl games. Yeah. And really last year was the only time I ever saw him let loose with some crazy stuff with the defensive tackles and stuff. So I think if he allows us to do those sort of things and puts a little excitement in it and brings something that's not normal, the triple reverse passes back to the quarterback. I want to see J.W. Walsh go deep. I just wanted to see it the whole time. I think he's got it in him, stuff like that. But I think you're right. It hinges on Mason Rudolph. If we can get our base offense going with Mason Rudolph, throw in some crazy stuff with Walsh, I think this could be not only a fun game, but I think OSU can win this game if we have Rudolph. If we don't have Rudolph, this is going to be a long game.
So both of you guys have mentioned that Mason is kind of iffy. Gundy's putting out information as Gundy does. Let's actually talk about the Ole Miss defensive star who will be out for the game.
Yeah, Kim Dichie, he fell off like a balcony or something like that. Yeah, so that's good news for whoever's behind center. He's their star linebacker. He's the reason Ole Miss fans are so proud of their defense. But he's out, and there's going to be a hole there, and so whoever it is, even Walsh, can expose that hole. So
yeah, that's going to be a pretty big deal, and I don't even want to act like I know what that guy did, but the rumors initially were synthetic marijuana, which he denied, and he was, cops are coming in the room, and he freaked out because of the synthetic thing, and he's paranoid, and he runs to play glass. So then after all of that, he just declared for the draft. So I'm not sure that guy's going to go too high in the draft. Yeah. But for this game, I think that's going to be a big help for us having a stud defensive tackle just miss. Now the problem is we can't even run it on like weak sauce teams. So I don't think it's going to make that big a difference other than the pass rush. So I think if we can, we just know we can't run. It's fine. We've accepted it at this point. But if we can keep that pass rush off of us for 1-2 more seconds, then I think we can have a little, we can get a little something going even with Walsh in there.
Yeah. So they'll be missing that leadership from Kim Dichie too. Also, another kind of talking about that area of the field, we have our Cowboy backs back. Jarwin and Seaton are probable for the game, and so that's good for two reasons. A, because whoever's behind center can just throw a little pot pass where that linebacker would have been, and they can block for J.W. Walsh in run situations, and they can help with the pass rush, and so that's only going to help our pretty horrendous offensive line.
Well, I think that's a really good point because those two guys were very much the heart and soul of our offense, especially like you said, the blocking and those third down passes where everybody's covered, those guys would pop open. So that is a big deal, and I think super underrated part of our offense is those Cowboy backs. That is a group of people that's just they're like 6'5" to 6'7", athletic, can run, can catch, can block, and it's almost like the defensive ends, the athletic crazy guys, the Emmanuel Ogbas of the offense. You know what I mean? The game changers. So that's a pretty valid point that you're making there. So
speaking of Emmanuel Ogba, what do you think he'll be like in this game? Do you think he has a statement game? He's been kind of quiet. He was kind of quiet against OU. He's kind of quiet against Baylor. Do you think he has
You think he's conservative because he wants to, he's proven, he's got his numbers, he's got his award list, his name's out there. I don't think that's a good strategy. I think you want to crush. I think you crush in this game, and that just solidifies against an SEC opponent. I mean, I think you want 3-4 sacks in this game, and I think if he does that, I mean, I think that really he has a knack for third down game-changing sacks, and he has done it all year. And I think that's something that he can turn on and off. He can, when he wants a sack, he can get it. So
everything he's putting out, at least on the media front, is that he is not focused on the NFL. He's not focused on the next step. He's focused on winning this bowl game. Now, the last time these two teams met was the 2010 Cotton Bowl Classic. Obviously, completely different teams, 5 years ago. Ole Miss did win 21-7 against Mike Gundy's Oklahoma State Cowboys. But these are, like I said, completely different teams. Mm-hmm. Ole Miss at 9-3, Oklahoma State 10-2. Right now, the line is Ole Miss favored by 7, and the over/under is 68. Garrett, how are you feeling about those numbers?
The Ole Miss line, I kind of disagree with. I think that's maybe a little bit of the SEC bias peeking through. I think a lot of people are down on the Cowboys because, we tanked towards the end of the season. But I don't know. I think Gundy prepares pretty well for bowls. We've had time to recover from injuries. I think everyone comes back fresh. I think we get a little more fuel in the tank. I don't know. I think this is going to be a little more even. I think the over-under is probably about where it should be. Maybe it should be a little higher. I think a lot of points are going to be scored. I expect OSU's offense to do a little better than it had the previous two games, regardless of who's under center. I expect our defense to play pretty well against Ole Miss's offense because, again, this is nothing we haven't seen before. And I like OSU to win this one by, I don't know, it's going to be close. It'll be a touchdown.
Yeah, the over-under, I'm a little cloudy on that because, judging from our last couple of games, or specifically with J.W. Walsh under center against OU, you take away 2 or 3 turnovers, and that game becomes a little different. I mean, at some point we were tied 14-14, and then we scored some points in the middle there that were, on OU's first team. So it wasn't like, that we just had some really bad, deep turnovers against OU, and you just can't recover from that. So you take a few of those off, and OSU looked really pretty good in that game. Obviously, the outcome was horrible, but I guess what I'm saying is if you judge us by the final score of the OU game, then we're just going to get demolished by Ole Miss. But I don't think that's true representation of what we are with JW under center. And I just I think my gut is saying OSU wins this, and I believe it's going to be one of those grinder games like we've had all through this season that got us 10 wins. I think it's going to be a grinder game. I think our history with Ole Miss, I think there's a little history with Gundy, and I think he's got a little, an extra motivation to beat these guys. It's not just some random team. They also beat us when Eli Manning was a senior, and he was well, he might have been a junior, but whatever. The year he went pro and was the first overall pick, we were going toe-to-toe with him with Rashawn Woods, and they ended up outperforming us. But I just think Gundy pulls this one off. I don't know why. I think Gundy's cool head, not overreacting to the Bedlam loss, pays off, and I think it gets our program back on track. I know 10 wins is back, not a back on track conversation, but after the last 2 losses, it really is. We need this win to bolster recruiting, et cetera, and overall vibe of the program. So I think Gundy pulls it off.
Yeah, with the 2-game skid, it's hard to remember that we had a 10-win streak going on
Yes.
before that. So
Brutal.
I think that says a lot about what Gundy's done for the program. Again, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast, but having a 10-win season feel disappointing, I think is fantastic.
Yeah, it is pretty good. We forget that we were bowl eligible by winning Bedlam last year. Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah. So that wraps it up for this bowl preview. We just talked about the New Year's Day Bowl, Sugar Bowl, All-State Sugar Bowl, which will be the second of 3 Big 12 SEC matchups, Oklahoma State versus Ole Miss. I'm Chris Armstrong, EJ Hayes, Garrett Sauls. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Check out our other bowl previews. We've talked about all of them. We're releasing them as the week goes on, so be sure to check those out. Hopefully we got everything right, nothing wrong, but feel free to tell us on either side of it. Also, be sure to subscribe. And go Pokes!
Go Pokes!